This is your daily briefing and you're most welcome to it. £150 million war chest, screamed the headlines, and all the boys and girls in the remedial class began drawing up shopping lists. Some gaily drew crayoned pictures of lollipops and fire trucks because they didn't understand what was really going on, but they did find themselves swept along with the excitement. Meanwhile in Enfield, a vertically challenged bald gentleman chuckled to himself at how much good PR had been generated from so very little. Let's unpack the reaction and try to come to grips with the reality. First though, we need to remind ourselves of an event in 2017 when the club announced that it had secured a facility with HSBC for £350 million. If you weren't born yesterday, you'll recall that this was greeted with the same fevered stupidity by many fans when this was announced. Shopping lists were also drawn up on that occasion, and not a cent went into players, as you will recall. So let's look at the statement and the phrase that pays. The equity injection provides the Premier League club with greater financial flexibility and the ability to further invest on and off the pitch. So let's look at the truth about the spending on players. And I'll be honest with you, I think we have to be honest with each other that none of us has a genuine understanding of how it all really works. We don't know the minutiae. And this explains, for example, when Gareth Bale was brought in, how most of us, 99% of us, were stunned by the fact that we could suddenly afford his wages. Even when they were supplemented, they were huge. And that money was kind of magicked up out of nowhere. And then we have the further complication when people start adding Champions League and food and beverage revenues even together with this war chest, and we're just in the territory of nitwits. But this is encouraged by unworldly journalists who are keen to pursue the mass market of infantile fans opposed to encourage thought. So if we got 150 million, of which an unspecified amount will be spent on off the pitch activity, what does that leave? I mean, if we're looking at the wrong end of 50 million for Romero alone, let's say, for example, they knock back Kulu's money to next season, which would be then you've got another 35 million coming down the line, but it's not due tomorrow or next week. So the wrong end of 50, that leaves 100 minus whatever they're going to spend on off the pitch investment. I mean, what have they got left to buy that's off the pitch? Helicopters, helicopter landing pads? And then we need to factor in all those goodly people that have been telling us for the last 3 or 4 days that we've got 6 signings coming in. So divide 100 million, take 100 million, knock off whatever's being spent on helicopter spares, and then divide that by 6. Is that a war chest in the 21st century in the Premier League? Unless, of course, Daniel Levy is planning a fire sale whereby he wipes, in a matter of just weeks, tens of millions from the value of his player inventory in order to back Antonio Conte. Which, I have to say, that's not about a leopard changing its spots. That's a leopard changing into a butterfly. Whatever way you look at this, if you have a triple-digit IQ, it doesn't prompt dancing in the street. And again, this is money generated, which, who's providing this money and what are they getting back for it? Bugsy Siegel in Las Vegas springs to mind, I have to say. And then there's a further backdrop, the financial backdrop of the pandemic. And attendances at the cashless shopping centre have been less than anticipated. And beyond the Arsenal game, there's, I'll work it out. I'll do some research. But in many instances, I've noticed there's 10,000 empty seats. And the revenues from Europe and domestic cups, negligible. I wish I could be more enthusiastic, but this cash booster is neither unwelcome, neither is it too little too late, because I'm not being churlish. I'm just trying to go through the facts, go through the numbers. The reality is that it's simply insufficient to be of any great consequence. And beyond that, we've got the other cold reality that certain players are a little bit unsellable. Tanguy Ndombele, I'm thinking of you. And so, sure, Steven Bergwijn, yeah, he'll get kind of market value for him, probably, maybe. Lo Celso, although the Spanish press or one foreign press were talking about, getting a better deal than perhaps Levy might have had in mind. But you've got to bear in mind the junk that we have has all depreciated in value. So, and is it a seller's market? I think it isn't. I think it's a buyer's market, and that's why everybody's doing these loan to buy deals, because it facilitates these deals to be done. So it is 150 million. It's not borrowed, so it's there's no interest to pay. But once you start looking at it a little bit more depth, it's not 150. It's what's ever left out of 100, and then divided by, and then you've got the wages, because you can't magic up money for extra wages. But you mentioned Gareth Bale for players when the squad is already full, and 2 games a week, 5 men on the bench in the Premier League. It's a candle lit at both ends. That's what I'm telling you. So, is this the minimum they could have done? Would they have had to do it anyway? My suspicions lie in that direction. I wish I could be more joyful, I promise you, but I estimated a couple of seasons ago that we needed about 250 million to turn the squad around. We'll see what Antonio has to say. Good luck. Keep it on.